Welcome to the Zveda podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Lorena.
We're a community for women by women. We're here to help each other rise to impact generations. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
I have this huge flower arrangement here. I have to brag on Lorena a bit. So each week we talk about a hospitality tip. And in our last episode, we actually talked a bit about how to reduce stress.
We did.
And Lorena talked about one of her ways is creating flower arrangements.
I love to do it. It just brings me so much life and joy. And Jamie's birthday was earlier this week, a couple weeks ago. But yeah, just wanted to bless her with flowers.
I don't know if you're like me, but it's birthday month, ladies. It's not birthday.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just show off this beautiful flower arrangement that Lorena made and just share a little joy that it really brought to me and helped her relieve her stress, but it really brings me joy and it's beautiful. So I just had to show you all.
Sweet. Thanks, Jamie. All righty. So let's go ahead and just jump right into our trending topic. So something that I've been thinking about over the last week is the value of mentoring and having variance across generations in our life, across different cultures, and across even just different interests. I think just really adds a richness of value to our lives. And so I know we've got a lot to talk about for this trending topic. And so I want to cover the first piece of it, which is about mentorship. I'll just say I've always had this desire in me to surround myself with people who are wise in many ways more than I am. And I remember when I was 11 or 12 years old and I was in 6th grade and I just wanted to have a mentor. There was just this desire in me. And I remember there was an older woman who led the 8th grade girls Bible study at the church I went to at the time. And I knew that I was 2 years away from being in her Bible study group, but I just was like, she knows the word so well. And I just want to talk with her and learn the Bible from her and just like get ways where she could help me learn scripture. And so I just approached her and I was like, hi, Miss Ina. She's precious, by the way, if you're watching, Miss Ina, hi. I approached her and I was like, I know that I'm still in 6th grade, but I just really want you to mentor me if you'd be willing to and teach me how to read the word and how to memorize scripture. And she was, of course, overjoyed and wanting to share that with me. And so she ended up being one of my first mentors that I've ever had. And just really that value for mentorship was really ingrained in me at such a young age.
I wish I would have been thinking like that when I was in 6th grade.
We all have unique journeys.
Yes,
so I just wanted to speak to the value of mentoring a little bit because it's so critical that, we talked even a little bit on the podcast last week that, we can't do things on our own. We have to have, even if we're defining, what success is, what our calling and our purpose is, we have to have others speaking into that as well. And that's a beautiful opportunity for a mentor to step in and help shape that conversation, that narrative as it's being written. And so a couple things I have read a book by an author. It's called Raising a Modern Day Princess. And so it's all about inspiring just the raising up of next generation of young women into womanhood. And one of the things that this author, Doreen Hanna, talks about is the value of having a mentor. And she talks about, how back in just ancient days that there were often ladies assigned to young women to help bring them up in maturity in different areas. So there was 4 different women that would be assigned to a young woman to help her and mentor her, a woman to counsel her physically, so helping her stay fit, fashionable, all those things. Another, I do too sometimes. Another woman to help keep her well informed and sharp mentally. So to challenge her when it comes to just her, intelligence, IQ, intellect, all of those things. A third woman to support her emotionally. So teaching her how to manage her emotions, how to even recognize them and verbalize what she needs. And then a fourth woman to help her with her spiritual growth. And I just think that's a really valuable nugget that I wanted to share and give Doreen Hanna the credit in her book.
Yeah.
Because I think it number one, it hits at the value of mentorship and also the value of having multiple mentors in different areas of your life, because there will be many strengths that one woman can carry and then strengths that another person, a mentor in your life, could carry. And so not putting the weight on just one person, but allowing different people to speak into your life based on those strengths and those assets that you see in them. So Jamie, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think, for me, probably a mistake in my thinking early on was that a mentor has to be older than I am. I think naturally we just think, or I do anyway. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. But what I found in my life is that that's not the case. So there are different mentors, as you're mentioning from Doreen's book. And I think it's important to think through that. So me as a single mom, I'm probably not going to go get mentorship from an older retired single woman who has no children, as an example. Me as spiritually, I might think of not just age, but who has really spent that time having mentors in their life from a very young age. So for me personally, Lorena and another really good friend of mine, Sarah, they're much younger than I am. And however, they had strong mentorships early on the spiritual side of things. And I look to them to guide me in that specific area. If I'm, newly married, I'm not going to go get advice from my single friends. I'm going to seek out someone who's been married for some time that can really walk me through that experience and what to expect and how to be a great wife. So I think
it's great, Jamie.
It's important for us to not just think about age, but the situation. Like, where are those areas that you need counsel in?
Yeah.
You talked about fitness. Well, I'm definitely not going to go seek out someone in my circle of friends or influence that is out of shape and hates to work out.
It's common sense.
That would just be silly.
Yeah.
But we don't often think about that when we're looking for mentorships in career. And in some really personal things that we need to grow in. So financially, I'm going to go seek out someone who has been successful with their finances to help guide me on how I should save and what I should be thinking about for my future, no matter their age. So I think that's really important. So as I thought about this topic, I was just thinking about my own friendship circle, and I have young women in their 20s that are my mentors and friends. I have women that are married with kids that I can speak to about raising my son.
Yeah.
I have couples that are married with no kids that really counsel me in career or finance.
Yeah.
So all of those areas of my life, I look to different people to really help steward strength in those areas.
Yeah, that's great, Jamie. I think I love what you said, that it's not purely age, although, there may be that may be a factor for you. Like if you want to find someone who is older, but who has also walked through and has the experience, that's awesome. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think the beauty is just making sure that you have relationships with people that are not just like you.
Yes.
I think that
don't just look like us.
Yeah. Look like us, think like us, and all the different things. I mean, I think it's helpful to have that variance because it helps us see the world in a more holistic way, and even helps us like grow in like critical thinking skills, because different people will take in information differently and process it differently. And so it's good to be able to kind of talk through those things with others who are older, younger, different cultural background. It's all important, and it's all welcome at the table.
Different seasons, different career paths. The way it looks like in the workplace, and many of us have heard this, is we often make mistake in hiring people that act like us. that are matching to our personality. And so that's why there's so many great personality tests out there to show like what are the individual traits and strengths of each person.
Yeah.
Because if I just hire people that are just like me, we're going to have a lot of visionaries and not think through too much about all the details to bring something to fruition.
Yeah.
So I think, from a career perspective, you can take that mindset and also bring it into your personal life as well. Like there's a reason why there should be different personalities. You need someone that has, that outgoing personality. You need someone that's very organized. You need someone that's very practical, that maybe likes to stay back and watch Netflix instead of hit all the local hotspots.
Yeah, those differences. Yeah, we shouldn't be afraid of them.
Yeah.
I love that, Jamie. And another thought I will share before we move to our main topic is this is actually from the life coaching certification that I got a few years back. With an incredible lady, Rebecca Rhodes, out of South Carolina with the Institute for Leadership Development. She's awesome. If y'all are ever interested in some great life coaching certification material. But in one of her initial courses with us, she defined the difference between mentorship, coaching, and counseling, which I think is healthy to define because then you actually know what kind of context and person you're looking for to fill a role of a mentor. So first I'll define counseling. Counseling or a counselor is someone who helps someone see their past and like see it. So see it through a new light so that they can resolve some of those things and kind of deeper heart kind of settling issues maybe to then be able to move forward. So counseling is very past oriented when you think of a time perspective, very much resolving things in the past to move forward. So then coaching and mentoring, those are both future oriented when it comes to time. So counseling is past, mentoring and coaching are future. How coaching and mentoring are different is that with someone who's a coach, they don't necessarily have to have the experience that you want to walk through. So say, for example, someone who's a coach, they're just really great at asking really great questions to help me define, oh, this is the answer that's already inside of me. I need help articulating that and assessing the current situation and defining where I want to go. And then a really good coach helps you by asking good questions to help you get there. But they don't necessarily have to have the same experience that you want. And how a mentor is a little bit different as a mentor has actually walked through something that you are about to walk through.
That's good.
So great example, this is way back, but when I was in high school, I made the all-state choir. So I know what it's like to, practice sight reading and to learn the sheet music. And so when I was in college, there was a young lady that I was mentoring in her career path or her schooling path, and she was wanting to audition for the all-state choir as well. So me as a mentor, I could do that because I actually went through that exact experience, and I could tell her, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this. And so it's just a little bit different than a coach.
That's so good.
So mentoring is specifically someone who has walked through something that you may think that's probably the experience you're going to walk through and seeking them out in relationship.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Love it.
So that's our trending topic. All right. So now we want to get into the meat and potatoes of what we're talking through today. Really, we want to highlight and emphasize relationships and how it's so important to take time to cultivate really deep connections with people, have genuine just intimacy, healthy boundaries. So first, we want to identify, we've been on this train for the last 5 episodes of identifying an old mindset that needs to be squashed and then creating a new mindset to replace it, one that is more empowering. So to tee this off, the old mindset here is that I don't need anyone, that I am self-made. I'm self-sufficient.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, just let there be a period of silence after that.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and this can, that statement can look different ways, I think, consciously in our minds, but it really gets at the core at, a lot of times, especially as, strong women that we all are, we tell ourselves that we have to perform in order to be either approved or accepted, validated, recognized. And so that kind of underlying groundwork, I believe, kind of bubbles up in this thought of that I don't need anyone, that I'm self-made, that I have to do everything to prove my value, to prove my right to be at this company or in this relationship or, in this sphere of influence or this community. I have to do, where really it's actually quite different than that. Anything you want to say on that, Jamie?
Yeah, I've been there. And it's very limiting. It's a very limiting mindset.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're completely burnt out. You're completely exhausted. And, you've brought it on yourself. That's just the reality of the situation of that mindset is, it's a lonely path to walk when you feel that you have to do it all, that you have to prove something. Because the reality of the situation, the truth behind the matter is we're only successful when we engage with other people and walk and allow them to walk with us to create. There's so many things that come out of squashing that mindset.
Yeah.
That are, companies are born, companies are strengthened, groups are formed, ministries are launched, and they may be led by a specific person, right? Like a department may be led by a specific person, a ministry may be led by a specific person, but it takes a crew.
It takes people together
to really create and bring that to fruition, whether they're the talking head or not.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jamie. I just love that because if we do try to do everything on our own, that totally leads to burnout. And we weren't created to do it all. Like we have specific giftings and talents and strengths, but we also, each one of us has weaknesses.
Yeah.
And the beauty of weaknesses is that we can use those areas that once they're identified to be able to know, okay, these are the kinds of people where I need to look for where my weaknesses are their strengths and come into relationship with them to do things together.
And I think this mindset, this false narrative is often born out of our past. You were speaking about the differences between counselor and coach and mentor.
Yeah.
Well, this might require a little bit of counseling.
It's true.
Because by no fault of our own, we pick up what we've grown up around. And if we had maybe a very strong mindset in our past that said, no, we're self-made and you have to work hard and it's all on you. And well, of course, we're going to adopt some of those same principles and thought processes.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you, if you struggle with that, to really look back at where was that born? Where did that first start creeping into my mindset? And I guarantee you may already have a person's name in mind.
Or a situation.
Or a situation that influenced your thinking there. Again, not right or wrong, not black or white, but awareness is key in squashing this belief. I know one of the things that I've talked about with Lorena is, we as women, I know that I've experienced in the past this mindset of women, wherever that came from, in themselves, and like, I have to keep you down. I have to rise above you. I am in competition with you. And I'm sure that's not only just a woman thing. I'm sure men struggle with this too, but I'm in it to win it. I'm going to step on who I can to get where I need to be. And that's a lonely road. And the individuals that I saw walk those paths weren't so successful.
Yeah.
Or they really struggled with success and happiness and joy and all of those things that we can really gain by having other people in our lives, opening up our doors, breaking down those walls, and creating some really cool things and realizing that we're not self-made.
Right.
And that, we can create some really great things with others by our side.
I think that's great, Jamie. And one last thing I'll touch on with the old mindset before we move to the new is that a big root of this comes down to control. Because I've been doing a lot of digging in my own heart and things of just my own experiences growing up. And this is why I wanted to have a episode on this and kind of squash this old mindset, because I'm currently squashing it. Like did a lot of things on my own as a child. Compared to like me and my brother, for example, like he always needed just like an extra, encouragement from my parents with school, whereas I was very achievement oriented. I was driven on my own. And so I think just even like looking back and seeing that experience is like, wow, like that could have informed like some of just this idea in me to be like, I got to do it myself. And now that I'm in a dating relationship and moving, closer to engagement and marriage and that, and like realizing like, wait, if I try to do everything all the time on my own, I'm actually not giving room for anyone else in this relationship. So is it really even telling someone that I want to be married? No.
Yeah.
So that's just a practical example because I've been walking through it. But I think what I've really been seeing is that, wow, like it comes back to a root of like me wanting to control things. And if I'm doing everything, yes, I will get burnout, but it's also the thought of like, well, then at least I know how it's going to turn out because I'm controlling all of it.
Right.
But it's like when you let other people in, there is that mystery or risk, whichever way you want to see it, but let's look at it as a mystery of, okay, we can create something even better together. Whereas if it's just you on your own, like, you know what your limits are. And so that is the extent to which you're going to create.
Right.
So,
and I think maybe another route to this is some people just feel like they don't want to put people out. Like I don't want to ask for help.
Oh, that's huge.
I don't want to.
We'll talk more about that too.
Yes, I don't want to ask people to come alongside me because I don't want to put them out. I don't want to bother them, and that's also part of this mindset of being self-made.
Yeah, it is.
Versus realizing that if we do ask, that could be the highlight of someone's day.
It could. Yeah.
That could be that ask could be something they're just desiring to do.
That's good, Jamie. So with that, we want to talk about the new mindset, which is when you cultivate relationships, you will go further than you ever thought possible. And so choosing to lean on others, choosing to give people opportunities to help you, that's where trust is actually built. It can be risky at first, but learning how to do that, I think, is key. And so a couple things before we get into the practical sense is, again, it's this mindset of we're shifting from I have to do everything on my own to the mindset of, you know what, I'm actually going to ask for help or I'm going to invite people into things that I'm creating, and knowing that there's going to be an element of mystery to that, but having a hopeful perspective that you're going to create something bigger than what you could do by yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is key in our personal lives and our careers.
Yeah, it's good.
So, there are some environments, we'll focus on the job piece of this for a moment. I know that there are some environments that many of you may find yourself in right now that make you feel like you have to know everything or you're failing. I'm going to tell you now that's an environment you need to get out of. I'm just going to put it out there because you will waste your time in an environment that way that is not inclusive and understanding that we don't know everything. We can't know everything. And that is an expectation we can't live up to. So we want to focus on those job opportunities and the workplaces that encourage creativity in groups, that encourage you to be asking questions. If you don't know an answer, that you're able to go and dig and find and learn, that you can easily ask for people to come alongside and help you create. And as a leader in those environments, really recognizing that maybe you could do it and maybe you could do it better, but allowing others to step into something and learn is only going to help strengthen them as an individual in their careers, and ultimately is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache and burnout, save you from burnout.
Yeah, that's good, Jamie. Thanks for just talking about it from, the workplace perspective, because I think it's so key. If we try to do everything, how can you have a team? Like, it's just not, that just doesn't create a culture for having a team, a successful team. So, another thought I wanted to share on this is that, to create relationships, we actually have to let people into those deeper places of our heart. Big phrase that I like to remind myself of is that we're only known in the context of relationship. Mm-hmm. So like, say just a practical example here, like, like because I have a father and mother, I have the role of a daughter. Kind of interesting. Or like, because I have Jamie as my friend, I can be her friend. So it's like, if we were just existing, as individuals in a vacuum, like there is no context for relationship, because the relationship is formed when there are parties interacting with one another. And so, so I think just like that statement, just to encourage each of us to really cultivate these deep relationships and connections with people, because that's where we're known. And that's ultimately where we feel connected and a sense of purpose and living.
Yeah. And I think, if you look at maybe some of the people that you admire for, in whatever capacity, whether it's ministry, career, maybe it's an athlete, a musician, they will often, when they're awarded, when they receive that award, and it could be very practical in your own workplace, that they will say, I'm only receiving this because of, and they go through a list of people that helped them achieve that specific award, giving the credit to that group versus being, I know I did it on my own and it was self-made. No one is self-made. It takes other individuals coming alongside to help us create and to help us to be successful. Even parenting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot you could share on that, Jamie. I know.
Yeah. Like that's a whole other topic, but I would just encourage you to really, if you struggle in this area where you are feeling like I can't ask for help, I have to do this on my own, I want to be self-made, that's just a limiting belief. It's a false narrative.
Yep.
And I can guarantee you will reach your goals more quickly when you have people come alongside.
It's good, Jamie. So as y'all know, we love to give some practical tips and nuggets whenever we talk about a new mindset to kind of kickstart that new thinking. So a couple things is that we want to talk through a little bit of how to do a little assessment of your current community, like those relationships that you currently have. And then in that, determining the changes that you want to make, those relationships that are close to you, ones that you want to pull in closer. And then also talking through a couple of just small ways to build connection. So starting with assessing and adjusting people in your relational circle, be selective with who has access to the most intimate parts of you. Not everyone is supposed to know the deep secrets of your heart. It would not be wise to carry your heart that vulnerably and openly for the multitudes. And I love how author Danny Silk, he's also a great counselor as well, out of, I think he's still with Jesus Culture in California, but he wrote a book called Keep Your Love On, and he talks through, and he has a great diagram in that book of the relational circle, and it starts very, intimately with, you've got to have your relationship with God, number one, that is the core. Then one layer out from that, it's, okay, who is that one other person that knows you the deepest and most intimate way? Oftentimes, it could be a relationship with one of your parents or a guardian. It could be, if you are married, it would be your spouse. Ideally, is that person that knows you most intimately. It could be a really close friend that's walking closely with you in this season. Then a layer out from that is your closest 3 to 5 friends, I would say. And these are the people that when you spend time with them, it's like you give an hour and you feel like you got 3 back, just with the beauty of conversation and the encouragement and just really like aligned in worldview, those kinds of things. Then you've got a layer out from that, and those are people that you are could be mentoring, pouring into, and just doing life with on a regular basis. So it could be coworkers, even in this circle. circle. And then from there, you've got the rest of society. You've got acquaintances, things like that. So it's really a great model to kind of see those different layers to know, okay, I'm going to assess who needs to be in which one. And if there does need to be any adjusting, if someone's not healthy or if it's just not the right season, they need to, maybe be a little further out and have room for someone else to come in to assess that. So a way that I would also like to frame this is a good friend and mentor of mine up in Dallas. He says, and this is biblical too, he's like, Jesus, what did he do? He was friends with a few. So he had 3 of the 12 disciples that were his close friends that knew the secrets of his heart and that were with him when he was bearing his heart and emotions. So friends with a few, so 2 or 3 people. Then you disciple the 12. He had 12 close disciples that he unlocked the parables with, and then you minister to the multitudes. There's that layer of, okay, Jesus shared the parables, but he didn't go into the meaning of the parables with the multitudes. It was only with the 12 disciples afterwards. So you friends with a few, disciple the 12, minister to the multitudes is the way I like to think of it.
That is so good. I think one question that, as you were speaking, was raising in my mind, because I know my personality and taking a personality test is I'm open, I'm trusting. I come with open arms into relationship, and that has actually burned me. And so I've had to really take time to assess this. And I love that analogy with Jesus because he's the perfect leader.
He is, yeah.
And so I want to dig into that more personally. But, I think it's important that we create boundaries. And there's a great book. It's actually called Boundaries.
It's good, yeah.
I think we've referenced it before. But not everyone deserves access to certain areas of your life. And I would say to be very cautious, not pessimistic, but just using caution to what you share and with whom.
Yeah.
And when someone gives you a clue, pay attention.
Meaning that they might not be healthy to receive that
information. They
information.
may not be healthy to receive that information.
Yeah.
They may use that information against you in some way. They may, we always say, oh, I've been burned. You might have shared something and it was spread through the office, or you might have shared something and then all of a sudden there's this key challenge in your life that you weren't expecting because you've shared this intimate part of your life. And I mean, there's so many examples. But I kind of want to see what you think about that, Lorena, just in terms of how do you know who to trust?
It's a
big question.
It is a big question. Yeah.
But I just wanted to sit there for a minute because
it's good. I think the first thing that's coming to my mind is this is where we have to tap into the counselor of the Holy Spirit inside of us. He is the one who gives us the ability to discern, to judge what is pure, righteous, holy, like all the things that Jesus walks in and are of the nature of God. We have to ask the Holy Spirit for help to give us eyes to see, is this person, the best person that I should be disclosing this information to, that I should be trusting. There's actually a really great article recently in a new book by author Gary Thomas. He's written like The Sacred Marriage and just all these great resources for singles, for those moving towards marriage, those who are married. And one of his books is, I can't remember the title of the new book, but it basically is along the lines of how to identify when you need to walk away, when it isn't a healthy relationship. And this could even be taken, outside of just the personal realm. It could be in a work context. It could be any relationship, but knowing that there's a difference between someone who will in a healthy way be a challenge to you. Maybe it's a little bit of personality differences that you can work through. Great. But that person isn't undermining you. That person is not cutting you down at the core and cutting really the ability that you have to minister and be effective with other people and your identity. Yeah. So I would just say, ask the Holy Spirit, ask the Lord for an increase in the gift of discernment, because he will show you who's healthy, who's not. And again, show you what part in your relational circle that person needs to be put in.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I have a friend, her name is Dr. Dana Schlager. I don't think she would mind me mentioning, but she would always say, a good prayer is let that which needs to be revealed be revealed.
Yes. Be brought into the light.
Be brought into the light so that I can be clear. I can discern what is really going on here. And I think that there's often a misconception too out there, which I think we'll need to add this to a future podcast topic, but forgiveness is one thing. But choosing to allow someone back into the intimate areas of our life is a completely different one.
Yeah.
So I think that, it came to mind when we were talking. I know we got off the being self-made a little bit, but I think it's important because it's part of it that, yes, we want to include people in. We need to be walking with others to create and develop our strengths, our skills, to create companies, to create ministries and ideas and bring projects to success in the workplace. But there's also the red flags to be aware of and who to let into certain areas of our lives and not just come forward into every relationship as this big open book.
Yeah, that's great, Jamie. Last thing I'll say before we just finish this kind of practical part of the main topic is that, in addition to being able to assess who needs to be in and out of your different relational circles, knowing who's healthy, who's not, there also is the component of how do we actually build connection, and this is something I want to dive way deeper into in future episodes with the community is that, there's so many ways that we can build relationship through interpersonal communication. And I think there's a lot of really great practical resources we can talk through. But something that I've been diving into recently with a teaching, it's called Brave Communication. And I think the Bethel Church in Redding, California, their online store, you can buy it there. Okay. But it talks through, how to be an empathetic listener and different ways to verbalize and articulate your needs. I know for me, I was never really taught how to articulate, how to articulate what I need. And when you are articulating a need that you have, how do you do it in a way that is building connection and not accusatory? There's so many ways that we say things that can be manipulative and we may not even realize it. Yeah. So I want to dive deeper into that in some future episodes to how to build connection. But I think a great just practical thing that we can end on is that, taking that time to assess who needs to be in what part of your relational circle and to be really intentional about that, because just a value of mine is that wherever you don't create culture, a culture will emerge on its own. So you might as well create the culture and the relationships that you want to have around you. So it's not just automatically filled with whatever could be filled there.
Right. And we want to hear from you, ladies. I want to just keep reminding you that this is a community for you.
Absolutely.
So we want to create engagement and we want to hear the challenges. Like, what are some of the thoughts that you have around this mindset of being self-made? What are some of the challenges that you've faced in the workplace, where maybe you have been burned in this way and how you navigated through that? Or maybe there's some tips that you have even on personal relationships, as Lorena was sharing, how to have certain levels of access that you allow people. And what does that look like for you? And what have you learned in relationship for yourself? Please submit those questions. Please submit your stories, and we'll hopefully feature that on a future podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think we want to wrap up pretty quickly here, because I know this one's been a long one, and I think that's just telling that we need to do some more content related to this topic. But just a quick health and hospitality tip. I was thinking a lot about this, but just how important laughter is. It's so important just to laugh, and not just laughter in itself, but actually letting yourself laugh out loud. Right? I think that sometimes we're like, a little chuckle like this, but if something's really funny, just let it out. Just be loud about it. It make me laugh. I just started to giggle, but I think that just goes a long way. Just letting you have freedom to laugh and do it out loud.
Yeah.
So, and last thing, we always end with, what are some of the questions that you're asking, what women want to know? I think this one that we got over this past week was super timely with this topic of cultivating relationships and how to do that. The question is, what are your thoughts on how to create healthy boundaries? So Jamie, I'll let you tackle this and then we'll wrap up.
Oh, that's a big question.
If you could give just a small nugget of wisdom at this point.
So I think just realizing again that not everyone should have access to all the layers of yourself just yet. I'm not going to share my deepest sorrows, for example, with a coworker that I've just met. Yeah. I'm not going to share my entire life journey in navigating divorce and failed relationship with a friend that I just met at a party. I think creating healthy boundaries is realizing that you can be truthful and honest without disclosing everything to the world around you. So holding some things back, because there are parts of our hearts and our lives that really are only reserved for the Lord.
Yeah, that's good.
And no matter what someone says about, well, this should be a priority for you, or you should let me, that doesn't matter. Like, that is a boundary that you can choose. And I think that's really the power statement here is we have choice. It is up to us what we discuss. It is up to us who we let into those areas of our lives. All of those are okay. And it is healthy to create boundaries. And as an example, if you've been hurt in relationship, note that. Understand what maybe drew that hurt, or in what way you might have been betrayed, and what did you share maybe too soon, or what is that situation, and realize that not building a wall. So building a wall is different than creating a boundary.
Yeah.
So you don't want to brick that off to where you become hard and you're unfeeling and you don't address it, but address it, understanding the feelings behind it, and then moving forward into the next relationship, friendship, or romantic, or work. How should that look different than it did in that particular situation? Those are just my thoughts.
That's good, Jamie. Love that. And we can, even just curate some new content that's around this question, because I think there is a lot to talk through here as well. So really thank you so much for sharing your questions with us and your feedback. And we just look forward to talking with you again next week. Have a great week, ladies.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Zveda podcast. Keep your questions coming so we can rise together. Visit Zveda.com to talk to us and join our community. That's Zveda.com. We'll see you next week.